What's going on, you guys? Mr. Grail here, and today I'm going to give you guys the next Sword and Shield Grail that I truly feel is going to take off and go to the moon. Now, we all know the Sword and Shield era was iconic for a lot of us, and honestly, at the end of the day, let's think about it. We had the Umbreon, we have the Giratina V, we have the Rayquaza, the Gengar, and all these other evolutions like Sylveon, Espeon, Glaceon, all those cards, even Mew is doing well in the Sword and Shield era. But there's one card that I feel like has been slept on for a long time, and it's still rather affordable. But I do feel it's gonna be one of those grails in Sword and Shield that's not gonna be affordable much longer, and I think that it truly is a time to hop on it. And that card is the Blaziken VMAX from Chilling Reign. Now, this card was one of the hardest cards to pull in the Sword and Shield era, and let's be real. I mean, it's got one of the best artworks that we could ever ask for. In my opinion, I'm kind of impartial, but at the end of the day, I truly feel that it is the best artwork in all of Sword and Shield. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be more iconic than the Umbreon. It doesn't mean it's gonna be more iconic than the Rayquaza, but I'm just saying, like, this card is just so beautiful and so good. And honestly, it has a low pop too. If you think about it, all the grails right now, they're not that rare. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, they're rare, but they're not that rare. If you think about the Umbreon has about 15,000 PSA 10s, and it's going for close to $3,000. If not, it's probably surpassed that already. You think about the Giratina, there's about 6,500 of those, and that one's going for about $1,700, $1,800, give and take, depending on the buyer. You have the Rayquaza, which has a high PSA 10 rate. Honestly, a lot of these Sword and Shield cards do. But that one's close to 10,000 copies in a PSA 10. Even like the evolutions, they all have many PSA 10 copies. While the Blaziken only has about 4,300 in existence. And let's be real, guys, like, we like going for real rare things, especially as collectors. We like to have things that no one else has. And in the Sword and Shield era, what's better than having a grail that is absolutely more rare than those other ones that we're focusing on? And I feel like Blaziken is just going under the radar. I mean, the raw card goes for about $360. Honestly, if you go to collect.com, you can see literally, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Collect at all, but I can tell you that it's an amazing app. It's almost like a Weeble for all your collectibles. You get to see how it's going, you get to see the trends, you get to see what's going up and down, you get to see the pop count. It is just a very, very good thing. If you guys like to follow me on the collector app, it's just gonna be Mr. Grail. Honestly, you can see my nice little collection that I got going on. It's just a great app overall, but it just keeps you up to date with everything that's going on in Pokemon. So I really, truly like it. But if you look at the stats here, you could see that the Blaziken is highly disrespected. I'm sorry, but like a PSA 10, like I was saying for Umbreon, is $3,000 and is so much more common. Actually, it is 3 times more common to find a Umbreon in a PSA 10 than it is to find a Blaziken in a PSA 10. Isn't that crazy? And then also, it's going for $3,000. And then you have, like we said, the Gengar. The Gengar is going for about $1,600, $1,700. That one is close to 8,000 in population. I think even closer to 9. And we talked about the Rayquaza and the Giratina, how they are much more common than this Blaziken as well. But yet they're in the higher thousands, but yet Blaziken is still barely bordering $700. I think this is the time to go for that card, you guys. And look at him, look at the card. I mean, he's given that Heisman stance. Honestly, I don't know what those are. Those could be Pokemon on the building, I'm sorry. I don't really know what those are, but it's just a beautiful artwork. And Blaziken, I just feel like also he's just not the most popular Pokemon. Not many people will go up and say that Blaziken is their favorite Pokemon ever. And I'm going to say that too. Like, Blaziken, he's not my favorite Pokemon ever. But this is one of my favorite arts ever. Maybe I'm coming from a biased place. Like, I do want to see this card go up because I do have one in my possession and I finally did get one. But I also looked at it. I did some research and I was like, there's no reason why this card should not be $1,000. I'm just saying, there's just no reason why this card shouldn't be $1,000. It doesn't have a high population. It does not have a high population at all. And it should be shown more love, especially in this era where we have so many good cards. And I think this era is just so amazing because this was the era that was modern when we had the first Pokemon boom in COVID time when we had vintage popping off. But now that modern's popping off, Sword and Shield is probably the headliner with Evolving Skies And then of course we got Lost Origin and Chilling Reign a little bit behind, and then of course you got Brilliant Stars and all those other ones behind it, right? But I truly believe that people are really sleeping on Blaziken, and I think that with this pop count, with the card art, with the iconic era, I do believe this card's gonna do very well in the future. I mean, 4,000 population, that's not a lot for the Sword and Shield era. Like we said before, there's a lot of Giratinas out there, there's a lot of Umbreons out there, there's a lot of Rayquazas, there's not that many Blaziken, and one thing about collectors, and I've said this before, is that we want to have things that nobody else has. And when we have cards like that in our collection, it makes us feel really good about comparing our collection to one another. Even though you should never compare, but I'm just saying, like, you can always feel confident by owning cards that you know not many people have. And that's the great thing about it. So if you guys have not bought this card yet, I would highly recommend to do it. Even if you don't want to get it in PSA 10, I'll just get it raw. Because yeah, it's not going to stay at 360 very often. Chilling Reign is already going off as a booster box. I truly do feel that one day that booster box is going to be $500, $600, maybe even $700. Sword and Shield's always been perform well. So I think that along with the booster box going up, so is the Blaziken, since it's literally the top hit. And it's one of the hardest cards to pull. So I think that this would be a great idea to pick up this card. Alright you guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the comparison. And I truly do believe that we should start putting Blaziken with that group. With the Gengars, with the Umbreons, with the Rayquazas, with the evolutions. I truly believe that because I know that one day people are going to look at this card and be like, man, that is one of the most iconic cards I've ever seen. Let me know what you think. And also, if you want to know how to stop the Pokemon hobby from getting out of hand and you want to stop feeding the scalpers, then watch this video right here and I can show you how to stop feeding into the scalpers, and let's get our hobby back to reasonable prices. Have a great day. Bye-bye.